For a number of years, Gerry Anderson had been very profitable and successful in making marionette TV shows, which were produced under his trademark Super Marionation process, with shows mainly aimed at kids, from Supercar, Stingray, Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. But Gerry Anderson wanted to follow a new path, and was keen to try something different, live-action TV. And after the poor ratings and cancellation of his Super Marionation shows, Joe 90 and the Secret Service, it was the perfect time to try his hand at live-action. His first entry into live-action was the Gerry Anderson written and produced science fiction film Doppelganger, retitled Journey to the Far Side of the Sun in the US, and starred Roy Finnis in a film about two astronauts who find a planet on the opposite side of the Sun, which is similar, but the exact opposite of Earth. The film would be the inspiration behind Anderson's first live-action TV series. Lou Grade would approach Gerry Anderson to look into creating a live-action TV series called UFO.
And then Lou uttered the magic words, "Gerry, I think you better switch to live-action." And I remember sort of trying to be terribly manly and saying, yes, what a good idea. Of course, when I got outside the door, I did a sort of, wow!
Anderson would work closely with his wife, Sylvia, and producer Reg Hall to create the sci-fi adventure series. Gerry was inspired after reading a number of news reports about UFO sightings, which was a common issue during the late 60s, and after hearing about the work of Dr. Christian Bernard and his pioneering of the first heart transplant operation, he thought that aliens coming to Earth to steal human organs was a great plot point for a series. The series was set in the future of 1980, as Earth is threatened by aliens who want to kidnap humans and use their body parts. To combat this, a secret organization called Shadow, which stands for Supreme Headquarters Alien Defense Organization, which operates from the secret location situated under a film studio. Shadow operate an entire fleet of submarines and have a base on the moon to warn from approaching UFOs. The sentient satellite, SID, which stands for Space Intruder Detector, would make the initial sightings of the UFOs. While they are tracked, they can be destroyed in space by interceptors, which are launched from the moon base. If they fail to destroy the incoming UFOs, high altitude aircrafts are launched from one of the submarines on Earth. If the UFO lands, Shadow dispatches armoured vehicles called mobiles that are on standby around the world. UFO was produced through Lou Grade's Century 21 Productions for Grade's ITC Entertainment Company. Interesting to note that Gerry Anderson, in all of his shows, would feature a secret organisation or agency in the plot. Groups like the Supercar Team, World Space Patrol, International Rescue, Spectrum, and in UFO with Shadow. The secret bases usually would operate from a remote location or a hidden base. These organisations were usually equipped with a lot of high-tech futuristic technology, and highly advanced vehicles are used to protect Earth from any impending danger or disaster. And of course, there was always usually enemy organisations in all of Gerry Anderson's shows, with evil organisations like the Aquaphibians, the Hood, the Mysterons, or the aliens in UFO, which were not given a proper name. They are simply referred to as the aliens. The aliens are humanoid in appearance and are harvesting organs from the bodies of abducted humans. There are also humanoids that can be possessed by alien minds, a similar concept to Anderson's Super Marionation series, Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. UFO, unlike Anderson's Super Marionation shows, was actually aimed more at a young adult audience, not the usual demographic of kids. UFO featured many dark adult themes, including drug use, mind control, alien abduction, illegal organ harvesting, and murder. And the episodes usually featured dark endings. One of the appeals of the show was certainly the attractive, tightly dressed women, the moon base operatives, who would wear distinctive purple wigs. Jerry Anderson commented that it made them look more futuristic, while Sylvia Anderson said she believed wigs would become accepted components of military uniforms by the 1980s. Only 2 of the alien suits were made, so at no point in the series are more than 2 of the aliens seen on screen at any one time. Principal photography would commence in April of 1969, with 17 episodes filmed at MGM British Studios in Borehamwood. Towards the last episodes of the series, production was moved and resumed at Pinewood Studios. The studio became available in June of 1970, which made UFO a 17 months long production by the time the final 9 episodes were completed. Due to this change in filming locations, the series was shown out of production order, and the quality in the last episodes dropped considerably. Some supporting actors would also disappear from the show, but due to the episodes being out of order, their disappearance from the show went unnoticed by audiences. UFO made great use of props, sets, vehicles, costumes, and even the actors from the Jerry Anderson live-action film Journey to the Far Side of the Sun. Props, lighting panels, sets, and spacesuits would be reused and seen in countless British TV shows and movies during the 1970s, in shows like Doctor Who, The Tomorrow People, The Goodies, and Blake 7, and in the James Bond movie Diamonds Are Forever. The special effects in UFO were supervised by Derek Meddings and Michael Trim. The look and the narrative action of UFO relied heavily on miniature props and models. Meddings and his creative team devised a number of innovative, low-cost, high-quality techniques to create very convincing, detailed miniature sets. There were many detailed model vehicles used in the series. One of the many trademarks of the series were Shadow's futuristic-looking cars. One of the cars seen in the series was the modern brown sports car with the fly-up doors. For these cars, they used 2 Ford Zephyr chassis. Interesting to note that the fly-up doors on these cars didn't actually work. UFO had a large ensemble cast, with many members of the organisation coming and going in each episode, with actors like George Sill and Gabrielle Drake, who left midway through the series, mostly due to a change of studios.
I believe the series became very, very popular in Japan, and we subsequently heard that a lot of the Japanese had adopted this hairstyle.
Ed Bishop was cast in the lead as Colonel Edward Straker, the Commander-in-Chief of Shadow, who masquerades as Harlington Straker Film Studios' studio boss.
Ed Bishop is one of the most talented people I've ever worked with. And my only sadness was that he didn't go on to become an international star. I would have loved him to have perhaps been James Bond.
Ed Bishop originally provided the voice of Captain Blue in Jerry Anderson's classic series, Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, in 1967. Bishop's hair in the series was a big factor and trademark of his character, and initially he had his hair bleached for the series, but decided on wearing a blonde wig instead to avoid damaging his hair.
I started to dye my hair, and in those days they didn't have unisex beauty salons, so I had to go to a woman's beauty salon in Mayfair in London and sit there under the hairdryer with a whole room full of women, and that was very bad news.
Colonel Paul Foster was played by Michael Billington. Interesting to note that Billington was considered to play James Bond. He did, however, play a Russian agent in the 007 film The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977. Incidentally, Ed Bishop appeared in 2 Bond movies, You Only Live Twice in 1967 and Diamonds Are Forever in 1971. Other actors to feature: Grant Taylor as General James Henderson and Wanda Ventham as Colonel Virginia Lake, a computer expert. The groovy 60s music for UFO was composed by Jerry Anderson's regular composer Barry Gray. Sadly, UFO would only last for one season. The series was syndicated on American television, and the ratings were initially promising enough to prompt ITC to commission a second season. ITC insisted that the new season's action take place entirely on the moon. Sadly, the ratings in America weren't enough to prompt a second season, and plans for a second season were cancelled. The series would have been titled UFO 1999. This would eventually become Space 1999. I've always loved Gerry Anderson TV shows. His Supermarionation shows made up the majority of my childhood. UFO was one of those memorable shows that I watched many times over. Gerry Anderson is a creative genius who has added so much to the science fiction and fantasy landscape. My name's Jonathan. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and like what you see on my channel, please subscribe, and if you would like to become a patron on my Patreon, click on the link below.